It was midnight. The cries and pain of an orphan could be heard loudly, and the smoke in the house rose high up in the sky. Mom! Dad! That is how it all began. They both died in a fire when she was 10. People said she caused it. Others said it was witches. But Vicky didn't know. She just cried and moved on. They gave her a wrapper and told her to go stay with her aunt. But the aunt had many children and little food. She shouted at Vicky all the time. You're bad luck. You brought fire to your own house. Go and fetch water. Wash the plates. Don't eat too much rice. Every day was like walking on broken glass. One afternoon, as Vicky scrubbed the floor, the aunt stood by the door and said, You're old enough. You're not a baby. Go and find your own way. She gave her a bag with 2 dresses and pushed her out. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just picked her small bag and left. No hugs, no tears, just silence. Vicky started moving from house to house. Do you need help? She would ask. Some people gave her food to sweep their compounds. Others let her wash clothes and gave her coins. She worked from morning to night. No games, no dolls, no friends, just work. She carried water till her hands were hard like dry plantain. She bent so much that her back started talking, but she didn't complain. Even her tears forgot the road to her eyes. Then one day, a woman with red lipstick saw her cleaning a gutter. You, the woman said, and you work in a big house? Vicky nodded, yes, ma. The woman smiled, come to Chief Edward's mansion tomorrow. Ask for Madame Adaku. That night, Vicky could not sleep. She lay on a mat in a small room behind a shop, staring at the ceiling made of old papers. A mansion, she whispered to herself. She imagined shiny floors, clean air, and maybe, just maybe, peace. And so, with the morning sun watching, Vicky walked up the hill to the biggest house in Obil City, Chief Edward's mansion. Tall gates, white walls, a house that smelled like power and secrets. She was about to enter a place where the floor was clean, but the hearts inside were dirty. She didn't know. But life was waiting to speak. The gates opened like the mouth of a hungry lion. Vicky stepped in, her heart small like a bean. Chief Edward's mansion stood tall, walls white like boiled yam, windows wide like watchful eyes. Inside the house, 2 women ruled. The first was Madame Adaku. Her voice was loud, her steps were fast. When she walked, even chairs stood still. Who swept this place like a blind goat? She would shout. Her words were like thunder. Her eyes never blinked. The second was Madame Liza. She didn't shout. She smiled. But her smile was cold. She watched people like a cat watching rats. She always knew what others didn't say. Chief Edward was a big man. He had money, lands, cars, and respect. But one thing was missing, a son. People whispered, what is wealth without a boy to carry the name? Chief Edward had tried, but Madame Adaku gave him only girls. Madame Lisa too, only girls, no boy, no heir. Then came Vicky in as a maid. She was given a small corner room in the back wing. No bed, just a mat and a small cupboard. But she didn't complain. She cleaned floors. She fetched water. She washed clothes. She scrubbed toilets till they shone like glass. She never spoke unless spoken to. Quiet girl, Madame Adaku said once. Too quiet, Madame Liza added, watching her with narrow eyes. Vicky became part of the house, like the flower vase no one noticed. But even flowers grow. Even silence hears things. Even shadows hide stories. And Vicky's story was just beginning. One beautiful evening when the moon was full in the sky, Chief Edward's wives, Madame Adaku and Madame Liza, had traveled for a burial. The mansion felt empty. Only Vicky, the guards, and silence stayed behind. That night, Chief Edward came home. His footsteps staggered. His breath smelled like bitter drink. He didn't greet anyone. He didn't go to his room. Vicky was already in her corner, her wrapper tied tight. Her mat was laid. Her eyes were closing. Then the door creaked. She sat up. "Who is there?" she whispered. No answer. Then she saw him, Chief Edward. He stood by the door, his shirt half open, eyes red like firelight. "Vicky," he called. She moved back. "Sir, do you need water?" He didn't speak. He stepped inside. His hand closed the door. "Please, please, sir," she said, her voice shaking like dry leaves. "I'm your maid. Please." But Chief Edward didn't listen. He came close. His hands were heavy. His breath was hot. Vicky cried. She begged, but he pinned her down and then did a forceful entry on her. And there on the cold floor, beside her small mat, Vicky lost more than her voice. She lost her peace, her safety, her childhood. When it was over, he stood up, fixed his shirt, and walked out. Just like that. The door closed. The night stayed. Vicky didn't sleep. She just sat, her knees to her chest, her heart loud in her ears. The next morning, Chief Edward came to the parlor. He sipped tea, read newspaper, gave orders, as if nothing happened. Vicky swept the corridor. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook, but her lips stayed sealed. The wind passed her face. The walls watched her. Even the dust beneath her feet seemed to whisper, "Life will never be the same again." 3 moons passed. The sun rose and fell. Vicky still cleaned, still worked, but something inside her was growing. Her gown stopped fitting. Her waist became round. She bent to sweep and her back cried. Her feet became slow. Her eyes always tired. One morning, Madame Adaku walked into the kitchen. Vicky was washing plates, her belly pushed against her wrapper. Madame Adaku stopped. She narrowed her eyes like someone looking through smoke. "What is this?" she barked. "Your stomach? Are you sick?" Vicky dropped the sponge. Her fingers froze. She started, but her lips were too weak. Madame Adaku stepped closer. "I said, what is this?" Vicky looked down. Her voice broke like a dry twig. "Chief Edward," she whispered. There was silence. Then laughter, sharp, bitter laughter from behind. It was Madame Liza, standing at the door. "So this is your plan," she said. "You want to climb out of poverty with pregnancy?" "Shameless girl," Madame Adaku hissed. "You bewitched him." Vicky shook her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. "No, I didn't do anything." They didn't believe her. "She wants to tie our husband," Madame Adaku said. "She came with village spirits," Madame Liza added. "They shouted, they cursed, they pointed fingers, but they didn't touch her. They didn't throw her out. They just watched, whispered, waited. Maybe they thought she would lose the baby. Maybe they thought Chief Edward would get angry and send her away. But Vicky stayed, with her growing belly and growing fear. And the real war had just begun. The house grew quiet, but not peaceful. Madame Adaku watched Vicky like a hawk. Madame Liza followed her with eyes like knives. Vicky still cleaned, still cooked, still kept to herself. But her belly grew, round and bold like the full moon. One afternoon, the family doctor came. Tall man, gray hair, eyes always tired. Chief Edward was away on a business trip. The doctor sat with Vicky in the guest room. He touched her belly. He listened. He nodded. Then he told the maids, "Call the madams." Both women came, arms folded, faces blank. "Well?" Madame Adaku asked. The doctor sighed and said, "Where's Chief Edward?" He traveled for business, Madam Liza answered. The doctor looked down and said, I have a good news for him. Madame Adaku jumped up and asked, You can share the news with us. We're his wife. We'll share it with him when he's back. The doctor sighed again. Vicky, she's carrying a boy, he said. A healthy male child. Time stopped. Madame Adaku's mouth opened, but no sound came. Madame Liza blinked slowly, like a cat seeing fire. A boy? She asked, her voice dry. The doctor nodded. A healthy male child. He handed them the scan paper. They snatched it, eyes wide like plates. One looked, then the other. Then silence. The boy they had been praying for. The heir. The future of Chief Edward's name was inside the maid they hated. That night they burned the scan report. Fire ate the paper. Smoke carried the truth away. They said nothing to the chief. He must never know. Not now. Not ever. When he returned, he asked, How's the maid? Madame Adaku smiled. She's just sick. Nothing serious. Madame Liza added, Maybe malaria. The doctor gave her medicine. Chief Edward nodded. Let her rest. And so, Vicky's truth was buried like a seed. But seeds grow, even in darkness. That night, they sat side by side in the bedroom. No smiles, no tea, just dark thoughts. Their silence was not peace. It was planning. The war had started, and Vicky's womb was the battlefield. Meanwhile, the chief wife's first strategy, to get rid of both Vicky and the pregnancy. And so they started with a very deadly poison. That evening, the household assumed an unusual quietness. Madame Liza entered the kitchen herself, dismissing the maids. She prepared a meal, jollof, rice, rich and red, and pepper soup that filled the air with heavy spices. When the food was ready, she called Vicky softly. You've worked hard today, Madame Liza said, her voice carrying a strange kindness. Sit down, eat. Vicky, exhausted from her chores, accepted the meal without suspicion. She ate slowly, the taste filling her mouth, unaware that every bite was part of a carefully designed plan. Madame Liza walked away, smiling to herself. She stood at the corridor, peeking from behind the curtain. Madame Adaku joined her. They both watched, waiting. Then an hour later, the effects began. Vicky clutched her stomach, gasping. She screamed, a sound sharp enough to split the night. Pain rolled through her body like thunder. She vomited violently. Then her legs gave way, and she fainted on the cold, tiled floor. Panic filled the mansion. The other maids called for the doctor urgently. Call the doctor. Call him now. When the doctor arrived, he moved quickly, examining her carefully. Then she was taken to the hospital, her wrapper soaked, her skin cold. Minutes later, the doctor came back to the house and faced Madame Adaku and Madame Liza in the parlor. She was poisoned, he said plainly, his voice heavy. Both wives feigned shock, clutching at their wrappers. Chief Edward's face turned red. Poisoned? He shouted. By who? Madame Adaku rushed forward. Maybe it was something she ate in town. Madame Liza added. She drinks strange herbs. I told her to stop. But the doctor's next words froze them where they stood. The baby survived, the doctor continued. Still strong, still a boy. His statement carried the weight of a hammer. Despite the attempt, despite the poison that nearly broke Vicky's body, the child within her endured, unyielding, untouched. The chief didn't know who to blame. He just said, no one should give her food again, except the cook. Vicky was brought back home, weak but alive. Her belly still moved. The boy was still kicking. That night, while Vicky lay unconscious, the two women sat together in cold silence, their faces dark with frustration. The first attempt had failed, and they understood now. They would have to be even more ruthless. The poison didn't work. Vicky lived. The baby lived. Madame Adaku's eyes grew red with anger. Enough of play, she said. It's time for power. She tied her wrapper, wore dark glasses and traveled. Not to the market, not to her sister's house. She went deep into the bush, to a small hut, where crows screamed and goats refused to go near. Inside, a native doctor sat, old man, wrinkled face, cowries on his neck. He smelled like smoke and secrets. Madame Adaku bent low. I want the baby to turn into a girl, she said. The man looked at her and laughed. This girl's parents are dead but never sleeps, so it will be hard to harm her. Madame Adaku looked at the man and sighed. There must be a way. I'll do anything, please, wise one. The man looked again and said, Are you ready to pay the price? She dropped money, big money. He mixed goat blood, black soap, ground charcoal, and strange leaves. He whispered things into it, things not from this world. He put the soap in a black calabash. Rub it on her belly at midnight, he said, but don't let her wake. That night when the house was quiet, Vicky was fast asleep. Her breathing was slow. The two wives tiptoed in. The soap was cold. They rubbed it on her stomach like oil on a frying pan. They chanted, Let the boy turn to girl. Let her womb obey. Then they left, smiling, hoping. But from that night, Vicky's dreams changed. She saw babies with no heads. She fell inside holes that never ended. She heard laughter, deep and loud, chasing her in the dark. She woke with sweat on her face and fear in her throat. They thought it was working. But one day, a nurse came secretly and checked Vicky. She smiled and said, Still a boy, a strong one. The spell failed. The soap was just black water. And Madame Adaku's heart grew darker than before. The witches had failed. The soap did nothing. The boy was still there, kicking stronger each day. The two wives sat in the parlor, quiet, thinking. Then Madame Lisa spoke, her voice low like a snake in dry leaves. We need help from someone inside. They looked at each other. At the same time they said, The doctor. That evening they called the family doctor. He came, as always. Madame Adaku poured him wine. Madame Liza handed him an envelope full of money. Remove the baby, Madame Liza whispered. Do it like a checkup, Madame Adaku added. No one must know. The doctor looked around. What if something goes wrong? It won't, they said. Just do your part. When it's done, they even promised to give him their body each for one night. The next morning, the doctor came in and told Vicky, We need to do a special check for your baby. It will help us know if he's growing well. Vicky nodded. She followed him to the hospital. She lay on the cold bed. He gave her an injection. Then he brought sharp tools. He started pressing her belly. Suddenly, a hot pain shot through her body. Ah! Vicky screamed. What are you doing? Her legs kicked, her arms pushed. The nurse in the room panicked. She called Chief Edward. The chief rushed in. What is happening here? The nurse pointed at the doctor. He's doing something strange, sir. Stop it, Chief shouted. Get me another doctor. Another doctor came. He checked Vicky, checked the tools, checked the report. Then he turned to Chief Edward and said, This man was trying to remove the baby. It was not a checkup. Chief Edward's eyes turned dark. You tried to kill my child? He roared. The lying doctor shook like a leaf. I was told, I'm sorry. Chief Edward didn't listen. Get out and never come back. The doctor ran. The wives hid in their rooms. Vicky was weak, but the baby was still there, still alive, still holding on. Poison failed. The spell failed. Even the doctor failed. The two wives sat in silence, their faces hard. Madame Liza spoke first. If we can't kill the baby, Madame Adaku finished the sentence. Let her carry it forever. Before sunrise, they wrapped wrappers, covered their heads, and left the mansion. They didn't go to church. They didn't go to market. They went deep into the forest, past trees with dry mouths, past birds that refused to sing. At the end of the path, they found a small hut. The roof was grass. The air was thick. A woman sat inside, with red eyes and no eyebrows. She was the one they came for. We want to tie her womb, Madame Liza said. She must never give birth, Madame Adaku added. The witch said nothing. She stood up, opened a calabash, and pulled out a small leather pouch. She poured something cold into their hands. A fine grey powder, soft like ash but sharp like salt. Pour this at her door, the witch said. Say her name 3 times, then leave. That night, when even the wind slept, the 2 women tiptoed to Vicky's door. She was inside, fast asleep, her hands on her belly. They poured the powder in a circle. Vicky, 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 they whispered. Then they turned and walked away. Inside, Vicky shivered. She opened her eyes. Her chest felt heavy. She touched her belly. It was still. No kick, no sound. Just cold. Cold like the bottom of a river. She called the baby's name in her heart. Please, move. But nothing came. Outside, the powder melted into the floor, and the night closed its mouth. 9 months came, but the baby didn't come. The nurses waited. The doctor checked. Chief Edward paced up and down, but Vicky's belly stayed round. No labor, no water, no pain. Vicky, the doctor said, we don't understand this. 1 year passed. Her back began to bend. She couldn't sit long. She couldn't sleep well. She walked slowly, holding her belly like a heavy basket. 2 years. People in town started pointing. That girl? They asked. Yes, the one pregnant for 2 years. She's carrying a spirit child. She's cursed. She wants to destroy the chief's house. Children sang when she walked by. Pregnant auntie, pregnant auntie. Even traders refused to sell her groundnut. 3 years, still no baby. Madame Adaku laughed in her room. She will carry it to her grave. Madame Liza smiled. She asked for it. Vicky said nothing. She cleaned the steps. She watered the flowers. She whispered to her belly every night, my child, I know you are still there. She felt the baby move sometimes, like a fish swimming slow. But still, he refused to come out. She didn't cry. She didn't fight. She just waited. And as the years passed, the belly grew heavier and the shame grew louder. 3 years inside the storm. 3 years of whispers, pointing, and shame. Then, one morning, Madame Liza stood up from bed and smiled. Her hands touched her waist. Her feet felt different. She ran to the bathroom and vomited. She called the doctor. He checked her, then nodded. You're pregnant. Madame Liza clapped her hands and danced in the room. She told Madame Adaku. She told the chief. Chief Edward's eyes lit up like firewood catching flame. Maybe, he said slowly, maybe this is the one. The house changed. New fruits in the fridge. New soups in the pot. Madame Liza became queen. Vicky became shadow. 9 months moved fast. She was treated like gold. Every week, a scan. Every scan, the same answer. No gender yet. But Chief Edward kept hope close like his walking stick. Then, on a rainy Thursday, Madame Liza gave birth. The whole house waited. Chief Edward stood by the door. The nurse came out holding a small pink cloth. A girl, she said gently. The chief's face fell, but he nodded. Children are a gift, he whispered. He went inside to see the baby. He smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. That night, Madame Adaku and Madame Lisa sat in the dark. Anger swirled between them like smoke. We must chase Vicky, Madame Lisa said. She is the curse, Madame Adaku hissed. The next morning, they stood before Chief Edward. She must leave, Madame Adaku said. She is bringing shame, Madame Lisa added. But the chief looked at them both. His voice was firm. As long as the child inside her is a boy, she must deliver. And just like that, the door stayed closed. Vicky stayed. The child stayed. The war stayed. The wind outside howled like a crying baby. The day was quiet, but Chief Edward couldn't sleep. He sat alone in his room, staring at the wall. His mind was full. His heart was heavy. How can a child stay in the womb for 5 years, he asked himself. He picked up his phone and dialed. Come, he said to the man on the other end. I need the truth, not hospital talk. Real truth. By morning. The doctor from Lagos arrived. He wore white. He smelled like herbs and hospital at the same time. He walked like a man who knew things. He checked Vicky, touched her belly, closed his eyes, listened. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he stood up and said to Chief Edward, Your child is strong, a boy, a lion, but something not of this world, is holding the birth. Chief Edward nodded slowly. He didn't speak. He just walked back into his room and sat again. That night, the house was still, but not for the two wives. Madame Liza tossed on her bed. Her eyes were wide. She saw a dream. A boy sat on the chief's throne, his head high, his eyes bright, and she stood outside the gate barefoot, begging to come in. She woke up sweating. She ran to Madame Adaku's room, but Madame Adaku was already awake, crying. I saw it too, she whispered. Her voice was shaking like dry leaves in wind. The same boy, the same throne, the same shame. Both women sat in silence. The powder had worked, but now something stronger was rising. Then one morning, the wind was wild. The trees danced without music. In her small corner room, Vicky sat alone. She was humming a song her mother used to sing, soft, slow, sad. Then suddenly, splash. Water spilled between her legs. She froze. Her hands grabbed her belly. Pain hit her like thunder. Her back bent. Her mouth opened. It's time, she whispered. He's coming. The old maid heard her scream and ran out. Call the chief! Call the driver! She shouted. Chief Edward came rushing down the stairs. Get the car, he ordered. Take her to the hospital. Now! The nurses at the hospital gasped when they saw her. 5 years pregnant? Is she human? What kind of belly is this? But one young nurse walked close. She touched Vicky's hand. Her eyes were soft like morning rain. You're not cursed, she said. You're strong. Now. Push. Vicky gripped the bed. She screamed. She pushed once. She pushed twice. On the third push, the room shook. The lights blinked. The doctor caught the baby. A boy. Strong arms, sharp eyes. Skin like sunrise. He didn't cry at first. Then he opened his mouth and roared. A loud, long cry, like thunder finally breaking the sky. The curse broke. The spell melted. The boy had come, and nothing would be the same again. The morning sun rose like a king's trumpet. The sky was clear. The air was sweet. Chief Edward stood at the hospital gate, waiting. Then the nurse walked out, carrying a baby wrapped in blue. The chief took him gently, like holding gold. He looked into the child's eyes. The boy stared back, calm and strong. Chief smiled. His chest rose. This is my boy, he said. My heir. He carried the baby home. That same evening, He called a family meeting. Everyone came, the elders, the guards, the cooks, the wives. In the middle of the room sat the sacred calabash, brown, old, silent. Everyone must drink from it, unless they had nothing to hide. Chief Edward stood tall. Drink, he told Madame Adaku. Her hands shook. She touched the calabash. She drank. Then she screamed. Her eyes turned red. Her mouth opened wide. It was us, she cried. We poisoned her food. Drink, the chief told Madame Liza. She drank. She fell to her knees. We rubbed soap on her belly. We paid the doctor. We went to the forest. We tied her womb. The whole room was silent. Even the walls listened. Chief Edward's face turned stone. You tried to kill my son, he said. You tried to bury truth with lies. He pointed to the door. Leave my house, now. The wives begged. They cried. They held his legs, but he turned away. Vicky stood by the stairs, holding the baby. Her eyes were full, but she didn't cry. Her parents never slept even though they were dead. The chief walked to her. He placed his hand on her shoulder. From today, he said, you are my only wife. The maids gasped. The guards bowed. The air changed. The girl they called cursed. The one they mocked in the market. The one who carried shame on her back for 5 long years was now the mother of the heir, the queen of the house, the orphan who rose from ashes to sit on a throne. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.